Hey, Catherine.
Hey, thank you, Natasha. Yeah, thank you. Um, so I'm here today to talk to you guys about ANA 498. So it's a year-long honors research project that Anatomy offers. I'll just change my slide. Like I said, it's a full credit course. So we offer it in the fall, winter semester, and then also in the summer semesters. And the idea of ANA 498 is that we want to offer you a direct hands-on experience in the research lab. So typically this course is designed to offer you wet lab experience. And so it can cover a broad range of topics, things from cellular and molecular biology to subject material, including gross anatomy. The beauty of this course is that it doesn't have any prerequisites other than permission of a professor to supervise. So there are no actual course prerequisites for ANA 498, but I just wanted to mention that the potential supervisor that you have to get permission from has the latitude to accept students according to their own individual criteria. So we can't do anything in that regard. In terms of expectations and assessments for the course, on our side, we expect a minimum of 8 to 10 hours per week in the lab. And the biggest, I think, question that we get when we receive inquiries about ANA 498 is what types of projects are allowed. So I just want to stress right now that it is really hypothesis-driven projects that we're looking to include in this course. So I just wanted to mention here that we don't really accept systematic reviews. And the way that you're assessed is primarily by your supervisor, but what we are looking for is whether you understand your project, the hours that you put into your project, and really the overall ownership of your project. So are you contributing to the development of your project and progress into the next steps, or are you just waiting, for instructions from your supervisor? For ANA 498, there's 3 written assessments. So each assessment is 10%, and the total of the 3 equal 30. Students don't get an opportunity to do things like fellowship applications. So the first assignment is actually a fellowship application, and it's just basically an outline of the objective and project rationale, your hypothesis and objectives, and it's typically due within the first 4 to 6 weeks after the start of the school year. The second project is a methods, or second assessment is methods. So this is supposed to just outline the
All kind of interesting though. Human pharmacology, they're doing like drug and alcoholism.
Natasha, I think that there's some kind of connection issue. Okay, so the second assignment is methods. This is just outlining the methods that you're going to use. And the third assignment is a statistics assignment. So the other things we've noticed with undergraduate research is that a lot of times people don't have experience with finding and applying statistical tests. So these are the 3 assignments that are part of ANA 498. Again, just to stress that we don't actually do any of the marking. It's all provided by your supervisor. The second type of assessment is the oral assessment, and this is at the end of the school year. We want you to do a 5-minute poster presentation. So like any other poster, it's supposed to include a title, abstract, introduction, methods, results, and conclusions. And for these presentations, we're having other project students there to listen to them, as well as faculty. The bulk of your mark is really participation. Obviously, it's a hands-on project. And so this is the mark that's imparted by your supervisor. But what we're also doing that's a little bit different this year is we've started data analysis seminars. So once a month, we have a seminar that's run by another professor at the university, and we want to introduce you to some of like the more interesting research methods. So this year we have a single cell RNA-seq seminar, we've got a microbiota analysis seminar, we've got a proteomics seminar. So things that are just kind of novel research tools. So you get some kind of experience with top of the line tech, I guess. Because of COVID, we've had to change ANA 498 this year. So we actually considered a lot of kind of dry lab projects. They had to be hypothesis driven, but they could be, bioinformatics based, for example. So I suggest that you check the website before you apply to ANA 498. And another different thing we did this year is we actually offered 2 half-credit courses. So these would be ANA 496 and ANA 497. And they're offered either in the fall or the winter semesters. And this was really to accommodate students because of COVID who didn't, or supervisors who didn't want to commit to kind of a full year project. Much like ANA 498, there's 3 written assignments. So there's a project overview. It's just a little bit shorter than the fellowship assignment. There's also a statistics and a methods assignment. You have a poster presentation, and the bulk of the mark again is participation. So a big question, I think, is how do you find a supervisor? And our advice would be just pick something that's interesting to you. There's so many faculty at U of T that are doing interesting things. Contact potential supervisors working in the areas of interest to you and arrange a meeting where you can discuss your interests. I just put a link here. We actually have a list of faculty who've previously supervised these types of research projects, so you can get an idea of the things that are out there, but it's not an exhaustive list. And then one of the last things I wanted to say is it's pretty easy to apply. Once you have approval from your supervisor, you go onto the Anatomy website, download the ANA 498 ballot, and then submit the completed and signed ballot to anatomy@utoronto.ca. And now I just wanted to let one of our previous ANA 498 students talk a little bit about her experience and open up the floor to any questions you might have. So I don't know if Clara is there, Natasha.
I am. I just logged on.
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. I don't know, Claire, if you want to maybe talk a little bit about what ANA 498 was like for you and how it helped you, pursue graduate studies, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So like was mentioned on Dr. Faiz's slide, I graduated in 2018 and I did my research project in the 4th year of my undergrad. And well, I guess first to begin, the sooner you try to reach out to potential supervisors, the better. In my case, I had reached out to Dr. Morstead in February to start in September the following school year. There are a lot of supervisors out there. So really, like Dr. Faiz was saying, try to find something that's within your interests, but also that potentially you could see yourself pursuing grad school in, if that's what you want to do eventually, because it's always a good foundation and you'll learn a lot of skills that will become useful for you during your graduate studies earlier on, I guess. So it kind of puts you at that advantage. So when I did it, I guess the course was a bit different. We had like a project proposal in November, progress update in February, and then our final presentations and final report at the end of the school year. But we did also have the in-person meetings with our supervisors. And what I've noticed a lot of the times, whether it was with myself or a lot of my friends that were also doing a research project at the same time, and it was also very helpful in terms of conducting our project, was that our supervisors would really want to meet with us, more than just once. I would meet with Dr. Morstead approximately, I want to say like every 2 to 3 weeks, which was really helpful to make sure not only that I was on track, but that like I was getting a good understanding of the project. And I was also working with a PhD student. So the work that I ended up doing for that project now is getting published in a paper. So yeah, it's a bit, like 2 years later, but it's still, a valuable experience that I had because now I am getting a publication out of it. And like I mentioned, because I did the ANA 498 in Dr. Morstead's lab, I had the opportunity to stay on for a master's in her lab. And I'm currently with the Institute of Medical Science, finishing up my master's. And I just want to say that it really did help me with the skills that I learned that were going to be useful for my master's. And overall, I think it was a really cool experience. And I really do recommend doing the research project within the anatomy department.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you. Natasha, I think that if we're done, if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, if you can post your questions in the chat box, and Dr. Maryam and Clara can answer your questions, that'd be great.
Clara, I think we did an amazing job.
Yeah, right.
You have a question?
So just to answer that question quickly, I did my undergrad in the human biology department, and I had to do, I think it was HMB 496 or 499, and Cindy Morset was only doing ANA 498. So what ended up working out was that I did the ANA 498, but I got credit within the HMB department, but I didn't need to take Anatomy 300 to do it. So I don't know, depending on the program that you're in, if that's going to affect it. Maybe Dr. Faiz would have more insight about that. But
Yeah, so I
in
think,
my case, it
oh,
didn't change
sorry.
anything.
ANA 300 is D. Balik's course, correct? So I don't think, it's not a prerequisite for ANA 498, and it's quite different. 498 is kind of a research lab experience. It's not, how do you say, academic per se. It's more of like a taste of, I think, what you might do if you were to pursue graduate studies, or, you know, it's like a pure wet lab research experience. So I don't think that your marks in any other course at the university are really going to be applicable to your experience in ANA 498. The link to the names of previous supervisors, it's on the webpage. Natasha, will you be sharing these slides afterwards?
I'm going to share the video.
The video? Okay, I can
There's
just paste that link in the chat for these guys.
So just to answer the question about when to reach out to a supervisor. So I started my project in September 2017, and I reached out to Dr. Morset in February. But again, the course was in person. So when obviously we didn't have COVID going on, so research or PIs or supervisors were actually taking on more students, which is why I wanted to apply earlier. But right now with COVID and everything, I'm not too sure. Again, I'd recommend apply as early as you can. But things may be different a bit this year.
Yeah, I usually get a request for 498 students early in this, like Clara said, in like February, March of the year before, because oftentimes, even though you'll be an ANA 498 student, if you want to, you have the opportunity to start the summer prior. So some labs will allow you to come as a summer student and then do an ANA 498 to have more continuity.
And to answer Jessica's question, so I ended up working it out with the HMB undergrad coordinator at the time. Her name was Gianna. I believe now it's Dana. So you would have to ask Dana for it. And they're essentially the ones that give you permission on Acorn. And then you have to fill out a form, I think, from your supervisor, that HMB has to sign also, and then the department holds on to it, so you can eventually get credit for ANA 498 in lieu of HMB 496 or 499.
So the anatomy does not have any graduate studies. Our students, like for example, any professors in anatomy are cross-appointed to other departments which have graduate programs. And so yes, IMS is one of the programs from which we accept. I think other members of anatomy are appointed to physiology and I think rehabilitation sciences, IBBME. So it really is worth checking out the supervisor and their appointments and what program they're affiliated with.
It's also pretty cool because, for example, I don't know about you, Maryam, but Cindy is affiliated with IMS, IBBME, and Rehab Sciences, and we typically have an even division of students that are either in mostly IMS and IBBME. So it's different programs, different requirements, different types of courses that are offered. So I would look into that also when you're looking at a supervisor, you know, which department they're affiliated with and which department you think would be best for you to pursue graduate studies.
Any other questions? Do you have anything else to share, Maryam or Clara, before I stop recording?
Someone just posted a question if it was too late to look into the winter term research courses. I think Dr. Faiz would have the answer to that.
Yeah, actually, Michelle, if you're online, do you know the answer to that question? I don't think so. I think it's still okay to register for the winter ANA 497, but Edith, if you want, could you email me and I can email someone in our division and ask what the deadline is? I can type my email here. Oh, sorry. Okay. Natasha, that's it for me. If oh, yes, you would also need to find a supervisor.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's one thing for you to sign up for the course, but you need to make sure that you have a supervisor before the term starts and before you
Yep.
actually reach the deadline.
Okay. Anything else? You okay?
I'm all good on my end. Yeah, thank
Are
you.
you on Clara's end as well?
Yeah. And just to confirm what Edith just said, yeah, that would be the ideal scenario.
Okay, then I will stop recording right now.